So individualism and selfish interest taken to extreme creates oneself loneliness and monotony and sense of being abandoned by others and a certain kind of helplessness.
Welcome to the InSpirit podcast from Amoris Christi. Join us as we explore current events and all manner of fascinating topics and explore their connections to Christian living.
Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about our mission in the world today. And it's a great joy because we have with us Archbishop Thomas Menamparampil, who is the retired Archbishop of Guwahati in India. And among many other things, he was the chairman for evangelization for the Asian Conference of Bishops. He's written numerous articles about evangelization and mission. And so it's just wonderful to have you here with us. Thank you, Archbishop, and welcome.
Thank you.
Could you shed some light on how can we understand mission today? You know, as a Christian, as an ordinary Christian, how can we understand mission?
I believe that our mission today, as it was always to point to Jesus, that is our mission. Using words if required, as St. Francis used to say. In other words, it's not only through using words that you are witnessing to Jesus, but your deeds, your witness, your life itself. So pointing to Jesus in life contexts where humanity is searching for answers to hunger and thirst and absence of truth, corruption, violence, and variety of evils, we need to be something like problem solvers in concrete form as disciples of Jesus. And it is when we help people in this effort for solving their problem that the figure of Jesus becomes more evident, because you are a follower of Jesus and you are following his teaching, the message he has given, and handling the problem the way he would have liked us to do. So they find you have some formula that works. You have certain attitudes that are relevant. You have certain suggestions that seem to operate, function, and lead to solution. And you build up relationships that are constructive and positive, that helps us in a collaboration for a common effort. Well, this is our mandate today, put in a summary, colloquial vocabulary.
Yeah. So it seems like relevance is a key part of this, being relevant.
Indeed.
And I think you've witnessed that through your own life and ministry. You were a Nobel Prize nominee for your work in India, and you were speaking into, in other words, you weren't just isolating yourself in a Christian bubble, but you were very much relating to the issues and struggles that people were going through. Is that a good example of what you're referring to?
In each context, the need is different. In a situation of conflict, peace is required. In the situation of hunger, food is required. In a situation of undevelopment, development is required. In a situation of illiteracy, literacy and education is required. So it's for the Christian believer, in other words, active citizen of present modern world of a nation, to play his civic role, his social role, and his Christian believer's role with a sense of responsibility, to take initiative, to be reflective, first of all, to understand the problems in a contextual way, in an intelligent way, in a far-sighted way, and then looking for resources available, for example, for development, resources available from authorities, from natural resources, from local contribution. I'm not speaking only about the financial resources, also resources of energy, resources of talent, resources of commitment, resources of spirit of collaboration. How to stimulate a spirit of collaboration, how to invite them and draw them together. Those are very challenging mission in a present world. As we said, in an undeveloped world, maybe that of development, in a situation of conflict, as I was caught in from time to time, recent years, last 20, 30 years, I was caught into several situations of conflict where you have to take an initiative, bring communities together for a dialogue, for conversation. When we failed, repeatedly we failed, maybe now we are failing in Manipur, our effort to bring those communities together. But to some extent we have succeeded, and we have helped communities to come together, reconcile themselves, and forget about the past gradually, and make an effort towards construction of a great future.
And these are people of various religions and backgrounds.
People of different religions and different ethnic groups. Very often, the clash between different religions is not so outstanding in India, in our region particularly, but we have had conflict between people of different ethnic groups, either ownership of land or some civil rights and the political power struggle, whatever it be, election or pre-election time, conflicts of different groups. So problems start in a particular context, maybe of election and so on. But the conflict continues afterwards with violence, and it takes on various dimensions. Unless you are intervening in time, after a while you notice it's gone out of hand. Of the government, of the leaders who initiated the violence, it's gone out of hand completely. So it has to be brought once again under control, brought leaders who are guiding these states, these activities of violence have to be brought to reason. It's a great struggle, and often we fail. But I think today what we need most of all, very many contexts, is peacemakers. Of course, Ukraine war is going on, Gaza struggle is going on, Myanmar struggle is going on. Of course, it's too big for us. But in our own context, all of us can play some role.
I find what you're saying to be very challenging. And the reason I say that is because what I've noticed is for a lot of us who are involved in the church, we kind of have separated out our participation in the world and our participation in the church. Okay, I go to work every day, I do my job, and then I come back, and my involvement in the mission is basically getting involved in the parish or in Jesus Youth or different ministries, working within that group. But everything you're saying is looking broadly out into the world to see the relevance of Christians.
We are invited to be the salt of the earth, light of the world. So we should be a force for good in every part of the world and hold out answers to economic problems, social problem, political problem, and problem of damage to environment you spoke about, and corruption, violence. Not that we are, I'm not speaking that every individual is capable of that. We as a community together, we can join, but each one has to take initiative in his own context according to the more pressing problem of that day. And it is in this context that we just point to Jesus directly, or his image becomes evident because you have taken initiative as a Christian, as a fellow, we have taken as a citizen of the country, but they know you are a Christian and you are living by certain principles that Jesus taught us. So attention draws not only to you, to your initiative, but also somebody who seems to have inspired it. So Jesus receives attention gradually. That may be an occasion in which you can speak directly about Jesus. This is exactly what Jesus taught us. And certain examples in his life, certain teachings, when people are attentive, there you find you come into your own as a good missionary and evangelizer. So creating context in which people ask deeper questions, this is the task of a missionary. I'm speaking just now as a missionary. It is a challenge of the missionary and evangelizer of Jesus Youth as well. Mm-hmm. So people are not just waiting to listen to your story. They are worried about their problem. But then when you helping to solve their problem, you find the initiatives or teachings of Jesus have got a great relevance. Then not only they turn to that teaching, but also who is the author of that inspiration. Where does it come from? They look at Jesus. And maybe like it happened with Samaritan woman. He says, come and see whether he is the Messiah. I mean, you look for yourself and see whether the one who taught is really the creator of the world, the planner of the universe, to whom who is inviting you to our ultimate destiny under his guidance. In other words, Jesus takes on the right role in their life as well gradually because they have come to Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was actually, moved by what you said about how it's not possible as an individual, but as a community. And yet at the same time, as an individual, we have a part to play. I was wondering if you could share some instances of that. As here in Amoris Christi, speaking to what you said, one thing that we've tried to do to address the problems here, especially in the American context, is to bring in a lot of psychology. Because when we're looking at young people today, there's actually a very high rate, an alarming rate of depression and anxiety. And some of our research has been to try to incorporate faith there. But just from your own experience of seeing different individuals or yourself, how as an individual could we play our part in this mission?
I belong to a part of, I'm working for communities that are more communitarian. And human society initially were communitarian. So many of our problems were solved within the family, within a larger context. But maybe now society has moved to greater self-assertion of the individual personality development and go to exaggeration of that autonomy of the individual. And when you are exaggerating there, you are left alone. You are free to do whatever you like. You are a noble individual. But what happens is that you may be left alone because you have broken off your relationship with others. Within the family itself, you are very close-minded already, and larger society. So individualism and selfish interest taken to extreme creates oneself loneliness and monotony and sense of being abandoned by others and a certain kind of helplessness. Or else the moment you are not smiling one morning, your family members are asking you what happened. They are solving half your problem. Cannot solve all your interior problem, half the problem. And your uncle comes from another, your neighborhood and enters into conversation. Maybe he solves a quarter of your problem and so on. In other words, so many people, your neighbor, a good friend of yours with whom you used to walk to church in earlier times, he's solving part. So in other words, what are the very important, I'm not a psychologist able to give psychological answer, but also we can seek the help of others. Companionship, and both offering a sense of belonging to others and accepting the sense of belonging that others offer to you. In a family, in a neighborhood, in society, in a parish, in a team of Jesus Youth, in a football team, in a sports club, in a cultural group, whatever it be, we have a sense of belonging. So others will come and remove a good proportion of your depression. For the rest, of course, you may need some specialist to look into your specific reason for depression. On that, since I'm not an expert, I will not be able to say.
Sure.
But one of the suggestions that all people of religious faith, not only Christian faith, have said, Buddhist and Hindu, I don't say, meditation, yoga. In other words, go into your own inner sturdiness as well. Search for your inner identity and its greatness. For us Christians, it's not only just a psychological exercise and kind of a vague religious perception, but it is a search for God. And then you find God is our Father. He is a problem solver for me. He is the inspirer of good things. So he analyzes, or I analyze my problem of maybe I'm depressed because I did something wrong. I was unfair to somebody. I was dishonest with someone. I played foul with someone else. Now there is that accusation, self-accusation in my heart that I just suppressed only. When standing before God, I can ask for pardon. And maybe you can follow Jesus' message where he say, go and reconcile yourself with the brother. And if there is some injustice done, rectify those cases of injustice. So there is a reason for depression. One of the reasons One of the solutions is to look for the real reason. It may be a guilt feeling. It may be just emptiness because you have renounced your companionship with others. And you only need to reestablish a very happy relationship with others.
Yeah. I as I mentioned to you earlier, I heard you speak maybe about 15 years ago. And you're a very wise man. And just a lot of the things that you said in that brief time, I've remembered all of these years. And something that you were speaking about now reminded me of that, this concept of depth that you shared, and it seems like part of the role that we can play in our mission is to create community as a context where there can be a growth in depth and reflection on deeper questions about life. As you can imagine, here in this country, consumerism and materialism are big challenges. Certainly individualism, as you talked about. So I'm an individual and I'm pursuing wealth and material things. And so I think what you're talking about is to be able to create a context for where we can have deeper questions and reconciliation and all that, right?
We can do a lot of course search with a wise individual or a team that is intellectually interested in looking at those problems at depth, or a spiritual search with a spiritually enlightened person or individual or a group of persons working together towards solving certain problems in which you notice shared anxiety is not only one individual's anxiety, shared anxiety is also solved together. One thing is, along with independence, freedom, and asserting individual rights to access, what has happened is not only we have been left alone, we've lost a sense of responsibility. Freedom does not mean do whatever I like. It also, the moment you're free, as an adult person, you're also responsible. The consequences of what you do, what you say, for yourself and your long-term good and ultimate destiny, you're responsible for the good of society as a whole. And when you take on that, you become an adult. And then you are not an atom left alone in isolation. You belong to a larger society. You belong to a global human family, and therefore the collective will bring solution. You begin to count on the help others can give. Are not left alone. And you can look at the assistance spiritual inspirations give, for example, reading the Bible, reading wise writings of great authors, great philosophic thinkers. We cannot look at the cultural tradition of your own community, of other communities, other tribes and other civilizations. So an Indian, for example, may study Chinese civilization, or Chinese are very much respectfully have studied Indian civilization about life of Buddha and others and so on. We look at Christ and his teaching in Bible. Quran is widely read today, especially with Islamic influence right around the world. And then you find words of wisdom in every what books that are considered sacred, or books that are considered containing wise statements, philosophic statements. So the resources available to us are indefinitely big, but then we sink into ourselves and try to swallow bitter pills and self-absorption. So it count on pills and souvenirs and drugs, and then you disappear. And that's what happens with young people. Very many young people are taken to addictions, alcoholic addiction. We are also worried very much about our areas. There are commercial interest in drug. It's not only the young people's weakness, they look for drugs. There is a commercial interest, including respected society, whose structured, which is structured in such a way that business in the area of drug policy is promoted by a society which is meant for the good of humanity, for medicine and other things, but also meant to, can do much harm. So they pass on drugs to the weaker section of society, weaker nations of the world, the people little disoriented in their life, young people who are a bit criminally inclined. They are all market for the producer of the drugs. They are all market. It's income earning areas. But do they take on responsibility for the harm they do? This is an area where we must think actually. Drug producers must take a certain amount of responsibility. Like arms producers today must take a sense of responsibility for not only self-defense of a country and maybe its own security, but arms being given to rebel groups and opposition leaders and criminal elements almost in a planned way, so that what you produce may have sale. And when they are outdated, they are sent to distribute them in the criminal groups or lost, protesters and people inclined to violence in different parts of the world. Meantime, they can produce better, more damaging weapons. And economy benefits, but the country benefits a little bit in the economic for a while, but long term, the humanity suffers.
It's very heartbreaking, yeah.
Today, many of the wars are, if not caused by or aggravated and given new dimensions because of the harm that weapons manufacturers are bent on, or they sponsor for economic interests.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, some national leaders are also keeping close to them.
Right. You know, Archbishop, you began by telling us that mission has to be relevant. It has to speak into the problems of the day, and that we need to adequately reflect on how we can be Christ to the problems that the world is facing today, so that there's an openness to our witness. And then I think you've just modeled that for us by surveying a few different areas that we're struggling with today, like many of the regional issues that you described. But then also the loneliness that we face because of individualism, problems of anxiety, depression, substance abuse, exploiting the poor, exploiting war. And I think you've modeled for us how we can build a culture of talking about these things as Christians, reflecting on them, and then hopefully finding our response to them. It's very helpful.
What I feel is that if you want to enter into some of these fields, we need to keep ourselves knowledgeable, widely read, keeping in touch with our thinkers. It may not be the charisma of every individual, but Jesus chooses as a team, the Catholic Church as a family. There should be members who do this task as well, do research and studies and build up a network of intellectuals and thinkers and co-thinkers in answering to the pressing problem of a particular region, of a nation, or of the world. And there is a great absence of this. When you protest without knowing the reasons for a harmful thing happening in the world, and you don't know the forces at work and who is really responsible, we let go. It's like throwing us, because you're angry, throwing stone into a crowd, but you don't know who did something wrong. So exactly that is what happens today, that we do not keep ourselves sufficiently well-informed. There should be a sufficient number of enlightened people among us. The younger generation should be introduced to collective, intelligent and responsible thinking. Collective, intelligent and responsible thinking, not irresponsible statements and careless accusations and unfounded allegations and so on. That's one direction of let us say, justice fighters and all. They go in without having studied an issue. They throw stones straight away in different directions. And to some extent, it's what is happening. A lot of allegations, a lot of hate words, a lot of irresponsible statements. But when Pope Francis said, please listen to people who are specialized in different fields of different disciplines, certain fields of initiatives, of activities, so that together we find wisdom. He himself is humble enough to say we need to listen to other people and experts. Not that they have all the knowledge, but put together with our own critical thinking, also looking at things from the light point of view of faith, and the message that Jesus himself has given to us, there is a harmony in thought that we can work upon. So there is a thought that is well harmonized, well integrated, well thought out, and therefore conclusions are on fairly foundations are well laid. There is balanced thinking, there is objective thinking, intelligent thinking, and far-sighted thinking, and also with our ultimate destiny in mind, not only about the immediate problem, but also our ultimate goal towards which we are moving.
Archbishop, this was very helpful, and it's actually such a great honor to have you here with us, sharing your wisdom. Now, I know you're on kind of a series of different talks that you're giving, and where do you go next from here?
I'm going back to Ave Maria University. It'll be a short time with them.
Wonderful.
After that, I go to Marquette University. There's a little program on peacemaking and the similar initiatives for a while.
Great.
I'll be busy with those. But since these questions were questions I was not expecting, I am unprepared. So if I did not express myself as I should have, I apologize.
No, we call this off the cuff. Would you mind giving us a blessing for all of our viewers, and then we can.
It's the Lord who blesses us. May the Father, blessing of the Almighty God, come down upon you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Thank you, Archbishop.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the InSpirit podcast. InSpirit is an initiative of Amoris Christi, an apostolate dedicated to lay spiritual formation. For more information and to keep up to date, you can visit our website at amorischristi.org and follow us on social media.